Brian, we've got the numbers in right now for Connecticut in January. Okay. And I like to compare January over January. What are the early tea leaves telling us about this spring market? All right. What do we know coming into the year? Well, we knew Connecticut was 70%, minus 70% on active inventory, 70% less active inventory than pre-pandemic 2019, beginning of 2020 levels. Okay. So we're coming in number 50 out of 50 states in terms of active inventory, which means in Connecticut, sellers still have full control over the market. There are a lot of markets across the country where that's not the case. The inventory is kind of flipped and it's a buyer market. Okay. Not the case in Connecticut. So with that type of restriction on the market, let's take a look at what January numbers came in. One of the early signals I like to look at is certainly going to be pending sales. Okay. So pending sales for, and would you want me to do single family, condo, everything, or just want me to break down single family first?
It's single family is my favorite. I'll vote for that.
All right, let's go single family. So single family for January, this is according to Connecticut MLS, January 2025, we had 1,747. So 1,747 pending homes, knowing that inventory continues to, take a hit here. How do you think we fared versus last January?
That was the number of pending sales?
That was the number of pending sales. And a pending sale, I don't want to use, I think that most people might get that one, but it's when a buyer and a seller go under contract, but the house hasn't closed yet. So they formalized an agreement to move forward with the purchase. And, you'll see it on some of the listing portals as, pending, but taking backup offers, that type of under contract. A buyer and a seller have an agreement to move forward and close on the deal. And 1747 happened in January.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of folks that I talk to don't always look at that listing status. So if you are looking at those real estate websites, sometimes it'll say coming soon, which means it's actually not technically listed for sale yet. I've been seeing a lot of those. And then you see active usually means it's available for sale right now. And then pending or under contract is typically means hasn't closed yet. So sometimes you get a shot at it if it falls apart, but generally it's under agreement. So I'm going to say up. I had my December was a little slow this year for closings, but I had a lot of activity in January for new applications. So I'm going to guess it's up 15% or maybe 12% is my guess.
Yeah, you're right in there. It's 1544 was the number. And so that's pulling a 13% increase there.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, my pre-approvals were up by about 15%. This year in January, I did about 45 pre-approvals. Last year was about 38. So I'm up about 15% as well. So,
yep. So 13.1% up on pending sales. So that's a really good. Now we're coming from like historically lows. If I go back 20 years of looking at Januaries, there's only a couple of Januaries that are lower. And guess what? Those are like the years everybody wants to forget about. Those are 08 was, oh no, actually last year's was lower than 08. Can you believe that? 2008 January was over 1,600 pending single family homes. Last year's was 1,500. Wow. So we're January 2009, you had about 1,300. So January 2009 was lower. 2010 wasn't. 2012 I'd be curious to look at, because 2012 was kind of that bottoming, that official second bottom there in Connecticut. You had 1,520, so technically about 20 homes lower. Basically, 2012, Brian, you and I were both working real estate in 2012, obviously, and that was that true second bottoming. The bottom of the bottom kind of happened around that time frame before the recovery started in late 12 and 13 and 14, and each year got a little bit better from there. 13, 14, 15. If don't chop my head off through the radio here, if you were trying to sell a house 13, 14, 15, I know it was incredibly difficult and all of that. But to think about that, when we had the bottoming of the recovery from the great financial crisis last year's pending sales for single family homes in January were the same level as that. And so we gained 13%, off of the low point over the last 25 years. And really, based on population and all of that kind of stuff. And obviously, just how many age-ready buyers there are, this would be a historical low point, meaning last year, when you factor all those variables in. So up 13% off of that. And January typically would be, obviously a lower month. As you move forward into February, March, April, May, those numbers tend to go up on pending sales. So the fact that it is up 13% tells me this spring is going to be, despite there being less activity, less inventory, it is going to be active, which is going to be a strong thing for prices. Again, I expect prices to get pushed up here as we move through spring.
When you talk about 2012, 2013, the first thing that comes to my mind about those times was just how long it took to sell a house. I mean, it took even though the number of sales might have been similar, the length of time that it took to sell was very different than this market. So I don't know if you're going to get it. Is days on market on your list of things to discuss?
I've got that. We've got it all. So I'll give you one more pending number. 2,300 pending sales in January of 2007. And again, we're at 1747. So you see the differences there. If we go to January 21, when we were in full COVID craze, 2,700. So 1,000 more pending sales on single family homes were happening across the market in January 2021 versus this past January. That being said, January up 13% on pending sales. The one team, by the way, was up over 100% on our pending sales. So beat the market considerably there. OneTeamCT.com to find out how we did that. We've sold more listings than any team since 2000, when the rates started to go up in 2022. I'll give you another one here. Total homes for sale. So active inventory on the market. I said we came into the year being the lowest out of 50 states and 70% less than pre-pandemic levels, just starved for active homes for sale, inventory, as we like to call it. What do you think? You think we're up or down from last January now that we have January's numbers? Did we get any improvement on inventory with obviously pending sales being up? Did that mean inventory also went up?
It still seems pretty low, but compared to January, I'm going to say inventory, I'm going to guess up 5% is my guess.
Down 5%.
Oh, okay.
So despite the increase of 13% on pending sales, here's what that shows you. The fact that we were down 5% on, this is just single family, okay? So the fact that we were down 5% on single family inventory when we're comparing January to January, apple to apple, but we went up 13% on pending sales. The rate's about the same. It's about 7 or just a tick under, as we mentioned before. Tells you that buyers are obviously, they understand the rate is what it is. It's not going anywhere. And that they're more confident in this market. They have more confidence right now. And we talked about that post, November, December, coming into January. Like there just seemed to be a stronger belief in, the economy, the future of the economy. And you're seeing that right here locally in those numbers.